We have the 1992 Royal Rumble.
We do.
This is pretty significant for, well, I think it's probably most significant for Ric Flair winning the WWF Championship. And this was kind of his culmination, showing up with the big gold belt and WCW and Vince getting into a rather unpleasant legal battle. But
there'd be many more.
Yeah. So we have, what is this? There's am I counting right? One, two, yeah, we have 4 matches before the Rumble, 3 of which are tags.
Yeah, I did notice there's quite a bit of tag matches here.
Yeah. And it just made me think that we've been talking about for a little while how tag team wrestling has kind of gone by the wayside over the years. And back during the time of all the different events we're covering, you really kind of get to see it and probably have more of an appreciation for it than you find today.
I mean, even as a kid, though, watching it back then, it's just sort of like this was a big deal. Like there were so many tag teams, they were so good, they were all different. So that's the wrestling we grew up on. That's what we were introduced to as wrestling fans. So then come mid 90s when there's 3 tag teams, it's like, what?
Yeah. Well, I think they replaced the tag team division with bra and panties matches. I don't there was just a different emphasis on what they were putting on TV.
Yeah, I don't think tag team wrestling really came back until Edge and Christian got in there with that best of 7 series with the Hardys and kind of re-revolutionized tag team wrestling.
Yeah, and then we had the Dudleys come in.
Yeah, they came in later and it was on.
Yeah, I mean, I really think those 3 teams were the tag team division for many, many years.
And credit where it's due to the Outlaws.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but they were more involved in faction warfare with DX.
Yeah, because when they started, they didn't really have other teams to work with. They were just cool. They had their shtick they came out with, and people loved it.
Yeah, and then kind of later on, you get the APA. I think the APA is one of the most significant tag teams ever, probably the most significant for their time.
Absolutely.
All right. So how do we start off the Royal Rumble?
With a cool ass intro with Vince doing his just over the top Vince, just doing what his thing is. One thing I liked about this is in the beginning, it showed you all the participants in the Rumble.
Yeah.
It had a picture of everyone, and so it told you everyone who was going to be in the Rumble. And a question I wrote down is do you like knowing everyone who's going to be in it, or do you like the surprises? Where do you stand?
With how Rumbles are today, I definitely love being surprised. But back in 92, it was an entirely different business. Now they bring people out of retirement. Johnny Knoxville was in the Rumble this year, I think. Wasn't
yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with that, but I think the aspect of surprise is a huge part of the Rumble nowadays.
Well, it's interesting how the Rumbles evolved too, because the first Rumble was on TV, and then just a couple years later, the title is up for grabs for the winner. And then a couple years after this, I think was 94 the first year where the winner would face the champ at WrestleMania. Was 94 when that started?
I am unsure.
Because that was the one with Brett and Luger, right?
Yeah, Brett and Luger won that. I think that may have been because there were two of them, they were able to play around with the main event at Mania. And then
Yeah.
after that, it became the thing. Like the winner of the Rumble will get a title shot. Um,
Yeah, it's just interesting, like what the winner of the Rumble gets has changed over the years, where it's like, Hacksaw, I believe, won the first one,
yeah,
and no one even remembers that he won the first Royal Rumble. Like Flair walks out with the championship for winning it. Like,
yeah. Hacksaw won King of the Ring too, but he won it in a different
cares?
fashion. Yeah. Well, and I believe in '91 Hogan was champion and Hogan won, so it was a cool event in and of itself. But and Tony would have this information much more accurately than I do. But I know Vince created the Royal Rumble event to run counter to a WCW. I think it was a supercard event, and
Yeah, I did know about that.
yeah, and that was just solely to cut into ratings for WCW.
Yeah,
He was really good at that. That's how the Survivor Series came about too.
yeah. No, a lot of the stuff that we take for granted that's been around for decades was just like a fuck you to other promoters.
Yeah, and a lot of these were the invention of Pat Patterson.
Yes.
He's I I think he really kind of came into his own during the Intercontinental tournament where he took on Vader and the Big Show and won the Intercontinental title for the first time. I was going to see how long I could go before you caught on.
Well, I was like, is he going to say something about, what was it, Rio de Janeiro?
Yeah.
That happened where yeah, and he did. I thought there were more people involved in that match. I thought he beat like 10 guys to win that match in Rio.
I think it changes on whoever tells the story. People jump moonsaults onto
Yeah,
cars and tables.
but yeah, so there's a little intro with Vince. They announced this is at the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany, New York. We have Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan on commentary. Um, Classic team from this
Yeah.
era. Um, and Heenan from the get go and throughout this whole show is like, Flair's winning this. Flair's winning it. Like, so not like Lawler would do years later, where he would pick someone, then they get eliminated, then he'd pick someone else, then they get eliminated, and then
Yeah.
he keeps changing. He didn't went with Flair right away.
Well, and another thing that I think has changed, and it's also probably personal preference, but like with Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler and events, most of the time they really didn't know who was going to win, what was going to happen, so they could have a very authentic reaction to the things that they were calling on commentary.
Yeah, like I've heard JR say, like the King doesn't take any notes. He's not prepared at all. He just wings it. And Ross likes to be able to react spontaneously to what's happening. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
One thing I did love about this intro is there's like the Titan Towers theme in the background that's all done on like a synthesizer. It is so catchy. And just hearing Vince, Sergeant Slaughter, he would, I mean, he could
He pumped
make,
you up, man.
I know he was so good at selling it. Just hearing that song, it's the same thing like hearing Gorilla Monsoon kick off an event. It's just it's so nostalgic and
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
So our opening match here is the first of many tag matches. We have the Orient Express, managed by Mr. Fuji, versus the New Foundation, consisting of Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart. Heenan made a great joke because of the New Foundation's outfits. He was like, "Look at the New Foundation. They just got up. They still got their pajamas on."
Yeah, I actually took notes on that comment. I just wrote Bobby is great.
Yes.
And yeah, the Owen and Jim look ridiculous even by 90s standards in the outfits they were wearing.
They did. The thing about this is, I remember, like, prior to rewatching this, if you said the new foundation, I'm like, oh yeah, that happened for like 10 minutes. This was a really good match.
Yes. Yeah, it
Like, I
was.
came away from this like, why did this team not work? They had chemistry. They had the same formula as Brett and Danville.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of left this being mad that they didn't work out, because this was a really good match.
Yep.
I
Yeah,
love this.
yeah, I think Owen and Neidhart had every bit as much chemistry as Brett and Jim did.
Yeah, and like Owen has a different style than Brett, but they're both a really nice contrast to Anvil.
Yeah.
And I was just like, these guys are really good. This was like, I wanted more of these guys. New outfits, but more of them.
Yeah. And it's like even listening to like their theme song, it's just very generic 90s
Well, I
elevator
know
music for
any
me.
kind of new anything doesn't work. The new Blackjacks, the new Rockers, like the new Midnight Express, it never works. I feel like if they call these guys something else, like, I don't know, I came away from this being pissed that these guys didn't work out as a team, because I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I did too. I know early on in the match, Owen had his you know, top rope. He runs up to the top rope, lands and
Yes.
backflips off. And back in 92, you really didn't see that. You even there was a point where Gorilla Monsoon even's like, watch this when he's getting ready to go up. And
Yeah, I mean, I even wrote a note how ahead of his time Owen was.
yeah,
Because he had like a lot of Japanese influence that he brought to his stuff at a time where we weren't seeing those type of maneuvers on wrestling in America.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, I love this. Like, I didn't like the announcers talked about the Royal Rumble match,
yeah,
this whole match, and it reminded me of like old school Nitro. Like, I don't like that. Like, show respect to the people in the ring and talk about what they're doing. Maybe once mention the main event or something, but like while they're in there performing, like, give them the respect of talking about their match. Like, Nitro was awful at that, where
yeah.
it's like Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio are in the ring. I don't want to hear about Lex Luger. Like,
That is
um,
true.
so that kind of bothered me. But this, I mean, I like Owen stuff looked great. Anvil looked great. Um, I just love this match. Like,
Yep. Uh, whenever Mr. Fuji's cane came in uh, twice, I believe. The last time was when Owen broke it with his shoulder, but when Fuji nailed Owen with it earlier on, because there's a lot of classic tag team psychology in here.
yeah,
Um, he nailed him right in the face with that.
I made a note that it sounded fucking brutal. Uh,
Yeah.
um, yeah, he laid it in.
Yep. Um, another thing that I had written down was the Rocket is a silly nickname.
It's not the greatest, but I mean, for its time and Owen style, like, I don't really find that very offensive.
Oh no, I just thought it was kind of like the Rocket.
Yeah, um, I did like the use of the tag rope
Yeah.
in match, which you don't see very often, and it's kind of enforced inconsistently. That
Yeah.
a little rope you have to be holding when you make the tag. But they were using that to choke people and stuff. I just thought that was a nice little touch.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of well, Owen spent a lot of time in the ring. Um,
Yeah,
And there were so many times where uh, Jim would throw a fit and get in, and the referee's pushing him back, and he has his back turned, and um, yeah, a lot of double team on Owen. Mr. Fuji getting in there with his cane, and
Yeah, I mean, like really good psychology here, good athleticism, good power moves. I think Orient Express is a really underrated tag team from
yeah,
this era.
yeah.
Um,
Well, and we saw them a few events ago when they had that match with the Rockers.
yeah,
Just that style and chemistry was kind of in short supply in tag teams back then.
yeah, definitely. And, Owen had a nice suicide dive in this, which is another thing we didn't see much of back then.
Yep.
We see it too much now.
Yep. Not wrong there. I had that. I had a note. Gorilla Monsoon does not know what a crescent kick is.
No, he
I
just
don't.
everything was a crescent kick to him.
Yep. That is a. Yep. It was just every kick, like you said, was a crescent kick, and none of them were ever a crescent kick.
Yes, but he didn't know. Again, Owen was doing stuff that like no one in this country was doing. So, and Gorilla Monsoon's old school. He's not going to know.
Yeah.
So it's a crescent kick. It's fine.
uh, I Owen did the uh, whip into the turnbuckle with his chest, very similar to what Brett did, and that looked really good.
Yeah, I love that, and I don't really remember Owen doing that a lot, but I did notice it here that he did it, and it made that noise that just reverberates through the arena, and it looks like it caved the chest in.
Yeah, it echoed. Uh, the last note I have is just quality match. I know going back to these older events, they do have uh, these kind of matches to kind of break the ice and get the crowd set up. And had we not gone back and watched them, I don't think I would be able to appreciate them for just how good they really were and how good the guys in the ring were.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and we've talked before about the placement of the matches on the card. This is the kind of thing you want to open a show with to get people up,
Yeah,
because it was an exciting, fast-paced match. Um, yeah, there was like an assisted kind of like top rope splash
yeah.
for the win. But yeah, I wrote like great opener. Like I really, really like this match, and I was like, I want more New Foundation. Like, I wish it would have worked.
Yeah. And so the new foundation, they did announce in the beginning that they were undefeated at this point,
Yeah,
and they would go on to win with a surprise. It really was kind of a surprise at how good the match was and how much
yeah,
I enjoyed it. Um, the Orient Express, I know you and I have both always, been uh, very quick to acknowledge them, even for their time at how entertaining their matches were and how good their chemistry was. And I always thought the same thing about Owen and Jim, but again, it's just been so many decades. It
yeah,
really was kind of a treat for me to be able to watch this.
yeah. I love that. I mean, if they just lost the Hammer Pants, I mean, that's the answer to my question is why didn't they make it
That's why.
if they were wearing Hammer Pants? But
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, after that, they cut to Lord Alfred Hayes. We've both mentioned our fondness for him.
Yeah.
He shows footage of Brett losing the Intercontinental Championship to the Mountie in someplace very, very far away from where we grew up.
Yep.
Were
See,
you
if
at
they
that show?
I am unsure.
Oh, okay.
I I likely might, because my dad used to get tickets from work for all of those. So I I can't remember offhand if I was, but I know that was one of the few things him and I did together. He used to take me there and we'd have a blast together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I forgot that happened in Springfield, Mass, and I wasn't sure if you had gone to that show.
Well, and if they have footage of it, and there was at least handy cam style
Mhm.
footage of it, I'm surprised that stuff like that isn't put out on like the network nowadays for some of the more obscure matches that have significance to them like this.
Yeah. I mean, I'd imagine that was probably something that would have been on like a Coliseum home video back in the day or something.
Yeah, but I've that's that little clip in here
Okay,
is.
that city where I was born.
You see, now that you said that, I really do think I was there because I remember they announced over the intercom that Bret Hart had a fever. And because I want to say they said that because he was sick, he wasn't going to wrestle. And then they said that he was going to wrestle anyway and kind of give him that, uh, uh, kind of get him sympathy. There we go. Sympathy was the word I was looking for.
That's
Like,
a smart way to do because it's like there's no announcers telling the live audience that. So them making that announcement
yeah,
over the PA or whatever, it makes sense.
yeah. I mean, this was so long ago, but I really do think I remember at least
But,
hearing that.
but yes, they showed the footage and then um, Piper comes down and saves Brett. The Mountie attacks Piper, and that's the setup to the Intercontinental Championship match we're going to see tonight. Mountie and Piper.
Yeah,
And
I believe the Mountie had won the IC belt just 2 days prior to this.
yeah, I know it was a very short title reign. Then from there, Mooney interviews the Mountie and Jimmy Hart. Nothing really special there. What is special is Gene interviews Piper. For that, how good was this promo? Oh my
Oh, yeah.
god. Piper responds to apparently they were going to take Piper's integrity. He said, I ain't
I
got
ain't
no
got
integrity.
no integrity.
They're going to take it. And Hood, and he goes, I came here to fight. I don't know what you came here to do. um, and this I forgot all about this because I haven't watched this show in its entirety in so long. But they played up that there was a chance that Piper could win both singles championships this night, which I thought was really cool that they brought that to everyone's attention
Yeah,
because he was challenging for the IC belt and he was in the Rumble. So conceivably, he could have won both this night.
but and maybe it's just a play on words, but didn't Hogan and Warrior have that chance at WrestleMania 6?
Yeah, but they each went in with one. I
Yeah,
think maybe that's the distinction is that Piper walked into this event with none, and he
yeah,
could have walked out with two.
that's true.
But this promo was so good.
He's very entertaining. And Mean Gene, how great is Mean Gene?
He's so good.
I know, like we were talking about this the other day. He's never caught off guard, never fumbles his words or anything. And it's like everything I just it feels like everything he says is like this deep cut humor that if you listen to a few times, you're gonna peel back more layers of it and he just becomes more brilliant, like Arrested Development.
Yes, good comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then we have the Mountie, accompanied by Jimmy Hart, defending his Intercontinental Championship against Roddy Piper. Um, there's a massive pop for Roddy.
Yep.
And I made a note, like, Piper always looked like he was having fun. Like, just a big smile on his face, the high energy, like it just got you into it so much.
Yeah, he was really excited about it, and
Yeah,
uh, it really is like I think you had said this about SummerSlam, that he has like this infectious way about him.
yeah,
Whenever he's commentating or talking, that it's true. He is just excited. He's quick witted too, and really sharp. And it's like, how can you not love Hot Rod?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he jump starts this match. He throws the kilt into Mounty's face, and I made a note. This match was what JR would call a slobber knocker.
Yeah, yeah. I excuse me. I had wrote down the match is exciting but messy.
Yes.
Not bad, but it was a I think slobber knockers right on.
Well, I mean, Piper wasn't known for his finesse.
Mhm.
Um, he was no Dean Malenko.
Sure wasn't.
But yeah, I mean, this was just a slobber knocker of a match. Intense, nothing fancy. Uh, Piper wins with the sleeper, puts him out, and his only, and correct me if I'm wrong, his only singles title
Yeah.
in the
And
major, at
yeah,
least. I don't know everything about his background, but
I, again, Tony would probably know, but I'm pretty sure he did win some like regional championships back when there were still territories everywhere. But yeah, this is the only one. Well, and then him and Flair would become tag team champions um many decades later. But
yeah, but this first singles titles, this was it.
yeah,
And he didn't need them
exactly.
like
Eh,
at all.
Yeah, all of the uh all of the YouTube shoots that you listen to and everything, especially with people like Bischoff or Bruce Pritchard, they always say these people. Conrad will mention, "Hey, this person never won this or never did this," and he's like, "Some people don't need the title to get over." Jake Roberts is another person I think of in
Yeah.
this. He never did win anything in the WWF, but he didn't need it.
If you listen to him, I believe he claims he was promised a lot of things that
Yeah,
never came to fruition. But
yeah. I believe he had said that there was talks of him um, at least being in contention for the world title seriously, and
yeah,
then on before he took his toys and went home to WCW, um, there's a creative position I believe for him that never came through.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so the only singles title, at least here, for Roddy Piper, he cattle prods. He takes the cattle prod, zaps the Mountie,
Yeah,
and celebrates his ass off. Again, he just seems happy, and much like Ric Flair later in the show, he really puts over how great it is to be a champion here.
yeah,
He makes it seem very important.
yep. So I did just do a quick little search to see uh, if Roddy Piper had won any other major titles. Some stuff in the NWA, some stuff in NWA Canada, which I didn't know was a thing. But yeah, that this is. Oh, wait a minute. I could be wrong. See, I should have this stuff ready instead of Google searching. Uh, I believe that He was the NWA United States champion.
Oh, okay.
I thought they had listed it under WCW.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was in World Class Championship. Anyway, I digress. Yep, Roddy was quite excited.
Yeah.
And even and coming up at WrestleMania after this, where he drops the belt to Brett. Um, Even in his promos there, he was like he really seemed excited to have the Intercontinental belt.
It mattered back then.
Yeah,
Like they just give it to anyone, like it mattered. And I really think it's cool. Like if you were watching this live at this time, not knowing that Flair was going to win this, you could see Piper leaving this Rumble with both belts.
yeah,
So I like that they planted that seed in people's heads, like that was a possibility.
yeah. Well, and with as few people actually did win championships back then, yeah, well, and especially when he was a heel, he was in the main event with Hogan,
Yeah,
against Hogan. He danced with very top level guys, so it really wouldn't have seemed too far fetched for that to happen.
yeah, and I think it's cool that they planted that seed in your head to give it a chance to grow before the Rumble event itself.
Yeah. All right.
From there, they show Lord Alfred Hayes in Hulk's dressing room,
Yeah.
and Hulk kind of like a cool, kind of low key promo about her. There's no friends in the Rumble, and it was like a lot more subdued than a typical promo, and I dug it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It kind of stuck out a
yeah,
little bit, and they're in Hulk's dressing room.
yeah,
Um, I don't think that they did things like that a whole lot. Usually they were back in the locker room, but to go into someone's locker room, like someone like Hulk Hogan, I don't believe they did very much of that.
no. Usually they had a banner of whatever the event was behind them, and this it was like you could see the lockers, and um, but it just stuck out. It was very subdued Hogan, like,
Yeah.
and because it stuck out, I kind of dug it. Like,
Yeah. No, I took note of that too. And Hogan, I mean, Hogan gave good interviews and promos wherever he was, but um,
yeah,
maybe it was just this one, but he seemed to have a good little rapport with Alfred Hayes in there.
yeah. From there, Mean Gene is interviewing the Bushwhackers and Jameson. What? What the? Jameson looks like kind of early Dudley Boys
He does.
with the taped up glass. Um,
So
Jameson. Where did this guy? What do you know?
um, Vince was out at a comedy club. I don't know who from his entourage was with him. Um, but the person who plays Jameson, no, it's a character. Um, Vince thought it was just great. And so because he owns the business, this is his little world. It's like, hey, I want this guy to come in and do this. And there he was.
Thank you for doing your due diligence because I didn't know any of that. And I was like, who is this guy? I've never heard of him before. I've never heard of him since.
Yeah, Vince saw
And
him at a comedy club, and
admittedly, he was the most entertaining part of one of the worst matches I've ever seen in my life coming up. Um,
yeah, yeah, I have some very disparaging notes on this upcoming tag team attraction.
barely got through this. Like,
Yeah, I mean, this is like a paint by number of how to have an off match on a WWF pay per view.
this was offensive to me. It really, really the Beverly Brothers. I forgot all about the Beverly Brothers.
Yeah, Bo and Blake.
Yeah, accompanied by the Genius. Uh, wrestled, if you could call it that. They wrestled the Bushwhackers, who was accompanied by James. The Genius. I really like the Genius. Like, he entertains me. He's
Yeah,
just like reading poems. He's got that cool voice. He moves around all kind of like swishy.
yeah.
Like, and they
Leaping
like,
Lanny Poffo.
and they always like subtly imply that he's gay because he's educated or something, I guess, but they never explicitly say that. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, he's got an effeminate tone whenever he talks.
um,
Yeah. So a couple of notes. My first note that I took before it started, I just wrote, eh. Um, and then when the Bushwhackers are coming down to the ring, licking children on the way to the ring is a felony and usually gets you on some type of list.
that's a valid point.
And the Beverly Brothers, just looking at them, I wrote, the Beverly Brothers are so NWA with their mullets and no gimmicks whatsoever and bleach blonde hair.
See, like, because I honestly forgot about the Beverly Brothers until this match, so I was kind of looking forward to it. It's like, oh, I forgot about them. Like, I'll see what they're about,
Yeah.
and if this is what they're about, I
Yep. The
they
high point of the match for me, and it's from Bobby Heenan, where the Bushwhackers were, one of them was biting one of the Beverly Brothers on his ass, and Bobby's like Greco-Roman biting. I thought that was funny.
I mean, these guys stalled forever. It did not get like it didn't build anticipation. Like, they're stalling. Oh, I can't wait until they finally like. No, it didn't do any of that. Um, I did like the contrast of the Genius and Jameson outside of the ring.
Yeah.
That was a nice contrast and easily the most entertaining part of this dog shit that they call a match. Like, this was boring. It
Yeah.
was. It felt like this match was longer than the Royal Rumble itself.
Yes, it did.
It went on for. This was.
Yeah. A note I took down on this too is that the Bushwhackers are usually fun, but this,
Yeah,
that just fell flat for me on this. There was nothing redeeming about this at all.
yeah. I mean, I was writing down like things like, I hate this so much. This seriously needs to end soon. Like,
Yeah.
dog shit. Uh, yeah, the Genius slaps Jameson. If it was the Genius and Jameson, this would have been a fine match right here.
Yeah.
That would have been entertaining. Yeah, I wrote about Genius and Jameson. These two are far more interesting than what's happening in the ring.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself getting angry every time someone kicked out because I just be over. I wrote that
Yeah.
the Beverly Brothers win somehow because at that point I was so tuned out. I don't even know how they won.
Yeah. Yeah, we've watched other events here in this where the Bushwhackers are there, and you know they can be fun, but this, it really was painful.
This match was the worst thing that's happened to me in a very long time. And we've spoken privately enough to know what, yeah.
Yeah. So I actually didn't. The Bushwhackers won, didn't they?
No, the Beverleys won.
Oh,
I wrote because I didn't even notice how they won, but
I didn't notice
and,
that they won.
yeah, but the Beverleys win, and I was like, I hope they leave the ring now. Like, This is easily the worst match we've covered on all of our shows to me. Like,
Yep, I'm right there with you.
and so I was very excited to see Mean Gene interview the Legion of Doom.
Yeah,
I made a note that Animal, he had the full beard. I thought that was a cool look for him.
I didn't notice.
He didn't have like the Fu Manchu thing. He had a full beard. I thought it looked badass.
And this little interview I thought was um, a pretty entertaining at all. Like when Hawk was talking about the Legion of Doom or the natural disasters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Hawk could cut good promos.
We like to throw their weight around too. I don't know. I thought that was fun.
Yeah. It was like really cheesy stuff, but funny. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thing that we've seen a lot in doing these shows is like a more nuanced appreciation for the promos in between matches. I know there's some I know pretty highbrow humor in some of it with like Mean Gene and um, the one about diarrhea from a few episodes ago.
yeah. Gene calling Andre and Haku the colostomy connection,
These are
which
not regular guys.
I wouldn't be brave enough to do that. But yeah, so then we got the Legion of Doom versus the Natural Disasters, managed by Jimmy Hart for the tag titles. This was the third tag team match tonight.
Yep.
Right off the bat, Hawk and Earthquake start trading drop kicks.
Yeah. Yep. I have a note for that too.
That was cool.
Yes. Yeah, it was. I mean, for two teams that have really similar styles and kind of foundations for how they do things in the ring, this is very physical. But I thought that they had a great match together.
Yeah, and I mean we've talked, I think, on every single show we've done about Earthquake.
Yeah.
Because he's all over these old shows. And I mean, yeah, he's impressive. Like when Earthquake busted out that drop kick, I was like, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, a standing drop kick.
Yeah, a nice one. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, that was noticeable.
yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I have one of my notes: standing drop kick by Earthquake ?
I put four exclamation points after Hawk and Earthquake trade drop kicks.
Yeah, I put ? Exclamation point ?
There was another spot I like too where Typhoon catches Hawk and Hawk tries like a flying crossbody. He catches him and he just does like multiple backbreakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this was just a solid, hard hitting match. And especially after the atrocity we just witnessed, this was refreshing.
Yeah, it kind of recharges you. Yeah, Bobby Heenan on commentary is always great. I had kind of a thought that
Okay.
Bobby Heenan and how he talks and gives commentary is like the Tyrion Lannister
It's
of
like
the
what?
Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. He's the Tyrion Lannister of the WWF.
I haven't watched Game of Thrones, so I don't get the reference.
Peter Dinklage plays a character. You can buy shirts even today. He has a line in there. He's like, I drink and I know things.
Okay, I've seen variations on that.
Yeah. And Bobby is just very quick-witted. And it just, I don't know. I can't remember if there was a specific line or comment or not, but that kind of drew the connection for me.
The Disasters win by count out, so they win the match, and they celebrate with the belts. But we all know they don't win the belts.
Yep.
So Hawk and Animal come in with chairs and run them out.
How did it, knowing how good and entertaining this match was, how did that finish sit with you?
Um, in the totality of the show, I was fine with it. We already saw a title change with the IC belt. We're going to see a new champion crowned later on in the night. So I was fine with this.
Okay.
I was okay with the count out victory.
Well, and afterwards, when the natural disasters and Jimmy Hart, I think it's Sean Mooney who interviews them, where they
They
cut
talk
a
about getting lawyers.
yeah. Yeah.
And it sets up for a rematch. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like you can keep the feud going without kind of damaging credibility at all. But yeah, I don't know if that, and I mean the ending is a really important part of a match, but I don't think it necessarily changed my appreciation for it. But I just thought that, I don't know, maybe having a definitive win there might have been better. I don't know.
I mean, normally I think that, but I think based on everything that, if you take this as one chapter in a whole story, considering everything else that happens on the show, I was okay with it. And it continues their story. And these two teams have good chemistry. So
They sure do.
I think it was effective for what it was meant to do.
All right.
Yeah. So Sean Mooney interviews Jimmy Hart and the natural disasters. And I just like that they talked about getting lawyers. I got a kick out of that.
Well, and there was one thing Earthquake said that I do think played really well into the count out finish. We had the belts, we had our hand raised, we were the winners. And so
Yeah.
the champion's advantage wasn't necessarily unknown at this time, but
And they did announce it to the live audience, which I thought was nice because at that time, maybe people didn't know that.
yeah.
And as viewers, you can hear it from the announce team, but the live audience might not have known that. So I like that they did announce it over the PA
Yeah.
so the live crowd knew what was going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that interview with Jimmy Hart and them talking about their getting their attorneys and they're going to sue everyone. They're going to sue Jack Tunney and everyone. That was funny.
Yeah. After that, Gene does a quick little interview with Piper. It's just kind of a fun, short, typically high energy interview. And Piper talks about winning both championships in one night.
Yeah.
Which again, that's something like we know what happens in this night, but if we didn't and we were watching this live, like that would be something I'd be pulling for Piper.
Yeah. And this was also back when you would see maybe 3 title changes a year, maybe.
Yeah.
Hogan was world champion for 4 years and then a few more years. And so looking back at this, like you said, with the understanding we have now, it's neat. But in the moment, because Bobby Heenan did talk about that on commentary, and now you have Piper talking about it. So whenever he does get out to the Rumble, there's another fun little spot for you to kind of get on board with.
Yeah, absolutely. See, after that, Sean Mooney interviews a young HBK, fresh off of throwing Marty Jannetty through the barbershop window. They show that footage. And I kind of I'm a Sean guy, and just seeing this kind of the heartbreak kid in his infancy.
Yeah.
Really embracing just that cockiness, and he seemed like such a dick.
Yeah. I took a note on that. How awesome is the Heartbreak Kid? not
Yeah,
HBK, but the Heartbreak Kid. Like I like what you just said, in his infancy, like
yeah,
he was such a good little shit heel. It was great. And him putting Janetti through that window was one of the most uh, impactful like interviews of all time. Like that was brutal even by today's standards.
yeah. Um, After that, Lord Alfred Hayes interviews Ric Flair. He reveals that he drew number 3, and then Flair goes on to describe exactly what he is going to do, and then he does
Yeah.
it.
I do remember hearing Bruce Pritchard and Conrad talk about this, and Pritchard said that there was a plan for him to just draw number 1 and do it all the way. But I can't remember. I think he said Vince changed it because he was going to be in early. He changed it to 3, so you're practically in there the whole time. But
Right.
maybe he was thinking about whether or not he really needed to do that for Flair to get over.
I agree that he didn't need it. I mean, 3, like you said, he's in there practically the whole time anyway, minus 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like once you do, somebody can win at number 1, someone can draw 1 and last the whole thing, then it's done. They did it with Shawn, they did it with Benoit, but then it didn't happen
Yeah.
because we had to erase all that. I think Mysterio won from number 2.
Yeah, he was 2 or 3.
I think he might have been 2 the year he won. Didn't Austin do that? Someone else did that besides Benoit and Shawn.
Um, and I'm pretty sure it was Shawn and Austin. Was that in '90s? I can't remember. Steve Austin Royal Rumble. Um, 97, 98, and 2001. I think I'm not sure, but I do think that he was number 1 in one of those.
Yeah, because I think it was like Shawn and then Austin and then Benoit, but they erased that from history. So I think those are the 3 guys.
Yep. No,
Um,
it was Shawn Michaels, Chris Benoit, and Edge.
Edge did it. I did not know that. Huh.
I didn't either. Well, if the internet says it.
Right. But I just like that in this interview that Flair he says what he's going to do, and it's exactly what he goes out and does. You don't see that a lot, but I just like that as I'm listening to this, knowing what's coming, I'm like, yeah, that's every word he just said is what happens. Like,
Yep. And this was also a more mellow interview, kind of like how Hogan's was earlier in his
yeah.
locker room.
Then they show, I really enjoyed these. They showed a bunch of clips from other participants.
Yeah,
Uh,
these were great.
yeah, I always liked these in the old school, like Rumbles, or even like the old school Survivor Series teams.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they showed Savage, Sid. They showed the Repo Man, which I love the little on his shoulders. They had like strips of tires bolted to his shoulders. I
Yeah.
just like that.
When they got to him, I took a note that the Repo Man is the R-Truth of his time.
Yeah, they showed the Repo Man. They showed Bulldog. They showed Jake. A second Flair promo along with Perfect, which I love that pairing.
Yeah.
Um, and they show the Undertaker and Paul Bearer, where they cut this. I really loved. It was so quick, but they talked about having 29 hearses and 29 caskets, and I just like that imagery
Yeah.
because I can just picture like a row of hearses and all these caskets. Like they planted that imagery in my head. It was just cool.
One thing that I noticed here was that so the taker was looking down with his hat over his face, and he lifted it up to say his line and then put his head right back down. I mean, just a pro. But then I thought he could give this kind of promo today and it would go right along. I think that's a testament to like the staying power that not just his character, but how he developed that character to exist in so many different eras and still be relevant.
Yeah,
And just amazing.
absolutely. And then these clips, of course, end with Hulk Hogan. Hulk always goes on last.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, even though I knew what was going to happen, like all these clips, it just made me excited to see all these guys come out and made me look forward to the Rumble match itself, which is what happens next.
Mm-hmm.
Howard Finkel explains the rules. We haven't talked about Fink really. Like, how important was he?
Yeah.
Like, when I think of like the great moments, it's like, okay, there's the great matches, but then it's like Fink is the one announcing it, like the new WWF champion. Like, that's him in
Yep.
all those moments.
Yeah. I mean, Michael Buffer, eat your heart out, man. The
Yeah,
Fink, the winner of this match, he'd let it build and let it build and no, and then he just wait for it to explode before going on. Um,
yeah,
and his voice is another one because they didn't have multiple um, uh, announcers back then. It was him, and he has just a very distinct voice.
yeah.
Like his voice, um, Gorilla and Heenan, just hearing them takes me back to this happy place of wrestling, and he's one of those two.
Well, that's followed by someone who does not have a great voice or a personality or make me feel good things. Tony comes out with the belt. He's just always seemed useless to me and just bland. And I never I never cared when he was around.
Yeah. Well, and he was just an on-screen persona for
Yeah.
your like the bureaucracy of the WWF.
Yeah. And I guess in that sense, he was effective because he was just bland. He was plain.
Yep.
But yeah, he comes out with the championship belt. And then yeah, Bulldog comes out as number one. And DiBiase comes out. He drew number two. Bulldog always seemed he drew early numbers in Rumbles.
I'm trying to remember other
Like, I remember the
places.
one with him and Sean. It started with him and Sean, and it
Yeah.
ended with Sean. I think in '95.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
seemed
it
like
sure did.
Bulldog was like always drew early numbers in Rumbles.
Yeah. I did take one note on that. I wrote um Davey would have been a good world champion.
I have always thought that, and it's like it seemed like there were opportunity, like times where that could have happened, and then it's like,
They just
change of
didn't pull
plan,
they couldn't pull the trigger on him.
because he was always someone who could challenge for it,
Yep.
and did, but they never pulled the trigger on. I don't know if they ever had plans to do that, but it always seemed like he was right there, but never quite made it.
Yeah. And because when Sean had his first run, Bulldog was one of the main events at In Your House. The
Yeah.
last few times Brett had the title before the formation of the Last Heart Foundation. There were some pay-per-views with him and Davey as well.
Yeah, I know he challenged, I think when Diesel had it as well. So like he was always in the title picture, but always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Always the tag team champion with Owen.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was tag champ, IC champ, and European champ, so
Yeah,
nothing to sneeze at.
no, not at all. Like, and he did look the part, especially like this era of Davey with like the dreadlocks and everything.
Yeah,
And even like at the little end, they had the different colored beads for the UK flag. I don't know. I always thought that was kind of neat.
yeah, it was a cool look for him. Um, yeah, Bulldog eliminates DiBiase very early on in
Mhm.
this. Um, I always kind of liked when, like in these Rumble matches, I like watching it fill up and get really crowded, but I also like it when it's like one guy and he's waiting. Like he
Yeah,
cleans house and it's just he has to wait for the next person to come out. Like famously Steve Austin, I believe in '97.
yeah,
Someone will come out, he'd toss him out, he'd wait. Someone would come out, he'd toss him out, wait, and he'd do the. I remember he was sitting on the turnbuckle looking at his wrist.
yep,
Um, I know that happened with Brock more recently. But I like that contrast of like one person's in there by himself, but then I also like it when it's really full,
yeah,
watching the fill up of people too.
yeah. I love this spot where, like you said, there's this one guy waiting, and there's this anticipation.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, it is a cool look. And then I don't know when they started to play theme musics whenever they would come out, but that's become a big part of someone's entrance into the Rumble itself. Like they have their own Titantron and their own theme, and
and you get a pop every time. And going back to what we were talking about before, is throwing those surprises in where they'll like bring back people from the past
yeah,
and stuff. Um,
one of the more significant surprises were some years ago where Big Daddy Cool, not Kevin Nash, but Big
yeah,
Daddy Cool came out.
yeah,
I thought that was really cool.
yeah. And he had the diesel gear. His hair was black. Like he looked like he did. He came out looking like it was 1996.
Yeah, he's aged really well,
Yeah, yeah. I
really,
don't think
really
a
well.
day goes by that he doesn't hit the gym. Like,
Yeah,
um, so one thing I always like this shot because they show it a lot in clips and stuff is Flair's number 3. He walks out and it's the whole like they've kind of built this around like here's Flair, like this is kind of his coming out party, and so that like iconic shot of him coming out and DiBiase going to the back. It's just kind of this iconic thing that they show a lot. Um,
yeah. There's one shot. It's kind of a far away shot as he's walking down the
yeah,
aisle, and you hear Bobby Heenan losing his mind.
yeah,
Um, and Flair has that robe. There is an episode in the WWE network. I think it's through A&E where they go through and try to find uh, lost props or items from wrestling history. And they spent a long time trying to track down that butterfly robe that he wore in this match. And they, I think they found somebody who had it and he wanted, like, I think they offered him like $15,000 and he wouldn't sell it.
hmm.
But this robe always sticks out to me as well.
um, so yeah, then Sags is number 4. Bulldog eliminates Sags. Haku comes out 5th. Bulldog eliminates Haku. He kind
Mhm.
of cleans house in the early going here. Um, Shawn Michaels comes out 6th to some big boos.
Yep.
A testament to the barbershop incident and how despicable that was. And Shawn was very, very good at being hated.
Yep.
Um, and Shawn was one of those guys, kind of like Mr. Perfect, Rey Mysterio, where like when they're in the Rumble, the whole Rumble, they're just tied up in the ropes as people are trying to shove them out. Like that's their job. It's just grapevine around the ropes for
Yeah.
however long you're out there.
Yeah. Well, and I would also imagine that you would only want guys who were really confident in their craft to be playing around like that. So, as there have been instances in Rumble history where people have accidentally eliminated themselves or somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right though.
Yeah.
Sean was just like
What's that?
slithering through there. Sean was just like slithering through the ropes. He's always been good at that.
Yeah. And it's like you want someone that's like athletic enough and has the stamina where it's like, all right, you're going to be out there a while and you're just going to be fighting people off, hanging onto the apron and wrap.
Yeah.
Um, see, Tito Santana comes out seventh. He did not need that Matador gimmick. I did not like the Matador gimmick. I don't think he needed it. I don't know what your thoughts were, but he's the Matador here. And I guess looking at it through 2022 eyes, it just seems like
It sticks out.
yeah.
Yeah. Now he didn't need it. He's one of the few people I think that he could just go out there. It was naturally likable just for being
Yeah.
himself and didn't need something like this to try to get him over.
Yeah, it just never sat well with me, the whole El Matador thing.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, and I was very much the standard issue WWF fan kid. I remember as a kid just not getting like what they were doing or what he was doing. Like he had a much more slowed down entrance theme. Um,
Yeah.
the theme was actually pretty good. I don't know. No, yeah, I'm with you on that. I think that was kind of wasted on him.
Yeah. Let's see. Barbarians out next at number 8, followed by the Texas Tornado. One thing I like about the Rumble too, it's like every time someone comes out, you get the initial pop where it's like, oh, it's so and so, we're excited, and then they come in and they get their shit in, and it's like that happens every time for everybody. So it's like that's one of those things that makes the Rumble match so exciting.
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, because Tornado comes in and he's hitting those big discus punches.
yeah.
And Sean and Flair just sell the shit out of him, bouncing around for those punches.
Yeah, boy, the Texas Tornado looked like $1,000,000.
He did, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, right on par with like the Ultimate Warrior, in my opinion, for like physique.
Yeah. Let's see. Repo Man is 10. Greg Valentine is 11. Then Nikolai. The Repo Man eliminates Nikolai and the Boss Man. Oh no, he eliminates Nikolai.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Boss Man comes out, number 13. The Repo Man eliminates Valentine. 2 eliminations from the Repo Man.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that. Then the Boss Man eliminates Repo Man. Flair eliminates the Bulldog and then Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Shawn Michaels and Tito Santana eliminate each other.
Yeah.
Let's see, Hercules comes out 14th, and he proceeds to eliminate the Barbarian.
Yeah, I really did not like this look for Hercules. Like the slick back mullet with the mustache. I really
No.
like he looked dramatically different than even even like at the beginning of the Power and Glory days. With kind of like a frizzy hair or whatever. This look like he almost looks like a different person. Very physically impressive, but
Yeah, we've kind of noticed that his look has changed throughout these shows that we've covered.
Yeah. And this was not a good one, in my opinion.
Yeah, not my favorite. Um, well, he's about to get thrown out by the boss man. Um, so at this point, it's only down to the boss man and Flair. And boss man does this like that cool ass kick that he does where he kind of like spins up and over, but just like he snaps it off.
That is actually what a crescent kick is.
That's okay.
That is a crescent kick. Really impressive. I know Boss Man was looking pretty trim at this time,
Yeah.
but even still, that's a big dude to be whipping his leg around like that. And it looked pretty good.
Yeah, like just the agility and flexibility and balance it must take for a dude his size to just snap off a kick like that.
Yeah.
Uh, and then he goes for a crossbody and misses, and he ends up eliminating himself,
Yeah.
leaving Flair alone in the ring, which is kind of cool. Like we talked about the whole like thinning out the herd and then building it back up again that happens in Rumbles is fun.
Yeah.
So Flair's in there by himself.
Yeah. And this is a great plan, I think, for him to be out there on his own, because coming up next,
The Hot Rod, the new
yeah,
Intercontinental Champion, comes out. These two had great chemistry together.
yep,
It was just intense. Um, it was a really fun 2 minutes.
yep,
um, Jake Roberts comes out next at 16. Hacksaw's at number 17. IRS is next at 18. Snuka is 19. So bring it down and then fill it back up.
mhm.
I like that. Taker comes out at number 20. I love the reaction from the crowd when they realize it's him. Like the crowd audibly gasps
Yeah,
when he walks out.
yeah. And at
So
this point, yeah, and at this point, he's already a former WWF World Champion.
yeah, at what? Like he'd been around a year before he won that, maybe.
Yeah, because they put him uh, over Hogan at Survivor Series, but they had Tuesday in Texas
Yeah,
coming up right after that, so we could drop it back to him. But yeah, he was
yeah.
still pretty new in the WWF.
So yeah, Taker comes in, eliminates Snooker right away. Savage comes out at number 21 and runs faster to the ring than any human being I've ever seen.
Yep. And you can see when they pull away, Jake the Snake drops down on the floor, so Savage can't immediately spot him.
Yeah. And this is, of course, Savage and Jake are feuding at this time because of what Jake did at their wedding that we covered recently. So Savage goes right after Jake, eliminates Jake, and then himself.
Yeah.
He hops over the top rope to the floor. Both feet clearly hit the floor, which apparently is not an elimination in 1992.
It is not. I noticed that as well. And Monsoon and Heenan start discussing this too.
Yeah, it seems like there's like kind of a discrepancy over the rules. Yeah, because he just launches himself over the top, and it's like, okay, he eliminated himself because he wants to beat up Jake more, and then it's like, no, he's still in it. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that's how they did things in '92.
They were still figuring it out.
Taker goes outside the ring, rolls Savage in. Flair gives a nut shot to Taker, and he then says, Flair just tried to lift the Undertaker up.
Bobby Heenan was a national treasure.
Yeah, little things like that just make me happy. The Berserker is out next at number 22. He's another one I forgot all about him.
Yeah.
Virgil is out at number 23. There was a really nice spot. So Virgil comes out. Taker is choking Virgil. Flair goes up to Taker and he's chopping him and gouging out his eyes. And at no point the Taker stopped choking Virgil. He's getting chopped and eye gouged. He doesn't take his hands off Virgil's throat. I enjoyed that.
Well, that's an effective use of Virgil.
Yes.
Because he usually doesn't have one.
The Sheik, or Colonel Mustafa, which we talked about last time, that's offensive to me, rebranding a former champion.
Yep.
The Sheik is out next at 24. Martel is out number 25. I put down, I don't know if you remember this, I put down Sheik eliminated with a question mark next to it. I think someone was thrown out. It looked like the Sheik, but maybe the camera didn't catch it that well.
I am unsure.
But I think someone threw him out, but I couldn't make it out that well.
Yeah.
Hogan is out next at 26. He eliminates Undertaker and Berserker. Hacksaw eliminates Virgil and himself, which sounds about right. Skinner comes out 27. Slaughter is 28. Rick Martel eliminates Skinner. I did take a note that it seemed like, because Hogan came out in the shirt, ripped the shirt, and everyone in the ring used Hogan's shirt to choke everyone else in every conceivable combination. Hogan's shirt got a lot of action that night. Sid is out 29th, and the Warlord is 30th. I always enjoy after the last guy comes out where it's like, it's going to be one of these guys.
Yeah.
Like I like everyone in there, and it's like, all right, it probably won't be him, maybe him. Like I just like it's down to these guys.
Yeah, it's a really effective use of psychology, I think.
Because that every elimination means so much more.
Yeah,
because it's someone else is coming out, so it's down. This is who it's down to, and it's like, oh, they blew it. Like,
well, and if you don't necessarily need someone to be in the main event picture at the time of the Rumble, to be a sure thing to win. I think for the most part, they've done a pretty good job of keeping you guessing for the most part. Like not everything is really obvious like it was with Roman Reigns.
Yeah. Let's see. So Sid eliminates Sergeant Slaughter. Piper eliminates IRS using his tie. It's a cool elimination. Like he's got his tie, and IRS is like teeter-tottering on the top rope like forever. It was just a nice little spot.
Yeah.
Sid and Hulk Hogan eliminate Warlord. Sid then eliminates Roddy Piper and Rick Martel. Sid and Flair eliminate Savage. We got a lot of kind of double teams here.
Yeah.
Another thing I like is the temporary partnerships that form in the Rumble.
Yeah, and especially back in times like this, when it was just the locker room wasn't as blended as it is today. There was baby faces and there were heels.
Yeah.
And like they'd have this little temporary alliance, but then just start knocking each other for no other reason. I always got a kick out of that.
Yeah. Yeah, so Savage is out. Comes down to Sid, Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair. One of these people will be the new champion. Sid eliminates Hulk Hogan.
If there was a number 2 spot on this pay-per-view for getting the most over, winning the world title is obviously the goal, but eliminating Hulk Hogan shoots you right up there in the card.
Yeah, this is 92. You don't eliminate Hulk Hogan like
Yeah.
cleanly. No shenanigans, just knocks him over the ropes.
Yep.
In this, yeah, after that, Flair eliminates Sid with an assist from Hulk Hogan. And this is another thing I think of Jesse Ventura in my mind, who always called Hogan on it, or any baby face, but especially Hogan, whenever a baby face did something heelish.
Yep.
How heelish is it? Sid just eliminates Hulk cleanly. Hulk is on the floor. He reaches up, grabs Sid's arm, and helps Flair get him out of the ring. That's straight up heel behavior.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and then at SummerSlam, the last one we reviewed, Hogan threw chalk or whatever, right in Slaughter's eyes to pin him and win. Hogan had some more heelish tendencies than I remember.
he really did. And it's funny because an ex of mine that you know, that was a wrestling fan, I remember watching this show with her, and she was very upset to see Sid eliminated that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Hulk and Flair get set out, and Flair is the winner. Interesting thing. So Flair wins, he leaves, and then Hulk and Sid are in the ring together. You'd think Flair would be in there celebrating, but Hogan and Sid need to square off.
Well, I can just hear it in the back of my head now when they're going over the finish and how it's going to go. And it's like Ric Flair is going to be in there and awarded the title, and you're just gone. I can just hear that doesn't work for me, brother.
I don't think so, my friend.
Yeah.
So yeah, Hulk and Sid are in there squaring off. Lots of people, much, much smaller than Sid, come in to break him up.
Yep.
And, like, talking shit to each other. Yeah, we talked. It seemed like it overshadowed Flair's victory to me.
Yeah.
And probably because of the reason you just mentioned.
Yep. Because even taking a look at this, the last few guys in the ring, Hogan's obviously always going to be on top, but you want to make other guys for him, and the more they're built up, the better he'll look. So we need to put the belt on Flair. So just the elimination in and of itself, I thought spread around so much heat with those 3 guys that,
Yeah.
only one's going to win, but you still get noticed, and now you've got a lot to work with going away from there. And I think you and I are very traditional in our beliefs on, respecting the champion and the championship. And yeah, this just kind of, you lost, you're still Hulk Hogan, and Sid looks like a monster. But, sorry. And on this event, that was Flair's moment.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, they cut to a very historic interview with Flair. But for the audience that's in that crowd, the last thing they see is Hogan and Sid. And Flair just bails as soon as he wins.
Yeah.
So that's what the live crowd saw.
That doesn't work for me, brother.
Doesn't work for me either.
Yeah.
So then they've got Mean Gene backstage with Tunney. and they present Flair, who's with Heenan and Hennig, with the title. How more can you put over winning this championship means something to me? This is important. Like Flair did that maybe better than I've ever seen before. Like I think about like the boyhood dream coming true. I think of Brett winning, and the biggest dreams can still come true.
Yeah.
This might be the most like winning this championship is fucking important promo I've ever seen.
Well, and I don't know that I can disagree, but there was also a lot of emphasis on, so he's the real world's champion. He's walking around with another promotion's belt until a judge puts a restraining order on him to do that. And so if you're going to validate all of that, his little speech there with the title, I think is a very proper way to put himself over, acknowledge the promotion he's in,
Yeah.
validate him walking around, because he walked around with that belt, I think it was for like 4 months. And so, if he isn't going to do that, I think it'd be in bad taste. But for everything Ric Flair could do, he could cut a promo. And
yeah, with a tear in my eye, and like
yeah,
it just seems so genuine, and he really just puts over, this is the real championship. This is, this is what matters. This is the greatest moment of my life. And it's just like so good. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was $1 million promo he cut.
yeah.
Uh,
And it really put over the championship to me. And I know we both have a lot of respect for championships and what they mean. And this is exactly the type of thing I'd like to see.
yeah. And doing that, since Ric Flair just won that title, the more he does there, the higher he's going to lift himself.
Yeah.
The more you put this title over, the more over you'll be. The more over you can put your opponent. Like little things like that, and I'm definitely sidetracking here a little bit, but little things like that, it just became more fun to watch squash matches. And I think not that those can't have a place even in today's business, but I really do believe the idea that if you can make the other guy look as good as he can, when you beat him, you will look all that much better.
Right. Yeah. Because if you just decimate someone, who have you beaten? Like you want to beat someone who's a threat to you. You want it to be competitive.
Yeah.
You know.
And again, for the era this was, I think that's more prevalent. But even in like 5-6 years where you have Goldberg tearing through people, that worked. It was effective until it got kind of boring. But back then, here with the politics between the two promotions and just the business in general, I think Rick putting over the company and the title just did that much more for him. I think it was, a classy act.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So the 1992 Royal Rumble, what is your match of the night?
Well, I mean,
I know there's not that many options this time, but
I don't know. These shows, a lot of times, there's kind of like the match of the night and the moment of the night. And
I like that.
this is consistent for me where I have one of each. The match of the night, I got to go with the New Foundation versus Orient Express. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And the moment of the night was that promo from Flair at the end.
I think Yeah, I mean, mine's the new foundation as well. Um,
Who
if
would have thought
I
we'd ever do that, huh?
I know. um, I think it really is a toss up between um, both the Intercontinental Champion and the new World Champion, kind of basking in their win with their new title, showing off. Like, Roddy looked so genuinely excited and
Yeah,
happy. Like, I really do believe that he was just so excited and so happy with that
yeah,
belt for however long it took him to get it or whatever. Um, I I really enjoyed seeing him celebrate.
yeah. It was a great moment for sure.
Yeah. So following this, we have SummerSlam 1992 coming up next,
Yes,
and the Royal Albert Hall, I think, um, where and this was very noteworthy considering the time. The main event of SummerSlam is the Intercontinental Championship match.
yeah, yeah. And I think that has a lot to do with, that it's in England and Bulldog to that audience was the top guy.
Yeah,
But I think there's a lot about their faith in Brett
yeah,
and how quickly, as a single star, Brett earned that level of trust from Vince to go on last.
yeah. That is true. And I also, yeah, there's going to be 80,000 people in attendance at SummerSlam coming up.
That one, yeah, that's Wembley Stadium,
Yes, yes, you're right. You're
Royal
right. That
Albert.
is Wembley Stadium.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure Royal Albert Hall doesn't hold 80,000 people.
that sure doesn't. Um, and one last, so Shawn Michaels in 1995 entered number one and was the winner. Uh, Mr. McMahon in 1999 entered in at number two. Chris Benoit came in at one in 2004. Ray came in at number two in 2006. And Edge in 2021 came in at number one and won it.
I forgot all about that. That's how great my memory is, that it was a year ago and I did not remember Edge going coast to coast.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing. I can remember the card to a wrestling pay-per-view from 1990 like it's the back of my hand, but I can't remember why I walked into the kitchen.
Yeah.
All right.